The Amazing Digital Circus of the last act was... It's good, bro. So, Among Us, the indie game, the show, is pretty good. Is it the best thing ever made? No. But are there any major issues in the show? Also no. It's just crazy how this show is more progressive than any of these shows because every character is pan and non-binary. It's like if Deltarune was actually woke. I think the most obvious and funniest part of the show is that they genuinely got a great crew for the Among Us show. The Among Us show in the big 26 before GTA 6. Anyway, Owen Dennis, the creator of Infinity Train, one of the best, most unique, most underrated, most cancelled by Netflix executives shows Cartoon Network had, also created this. This is like if the Fortnite movie was made by Rebecca Sugar. Also in the crew is writing duo Karen Han and Brian David Gilbert. Yes, the one from
Siblings, 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 siblings. This is my...
These two helped write the Among Us show, by the way. And the voice acting crew is so stacked. You have Yvette Nicole Brown, who you may know as Shirley from Community, or that one girl from Minecraft Story Mode. I forgot her name, and also it's Minecraft Story Mode. Elijah Wood, Kamiko, Glenn, Ashley Johnson. They should have just gotten the whole Minecraft Story Mode cast. Also, something I noticed while watching is the soundtrack sounded really similar to Infinity Train's, not just because the same guy who made that show made this one, but also because the same composer, Chrome Canyon, worked on the show as well. The crew for the Among Us show was just so stacked. While people didn't really have high hopes because it was the Among Us show, we kinda should have seen this coming based on the crew. Now okay, that's the crew, but what about the show itself as it stands? Well, it's really, really good. The characters each have their own recognizable personalities. I kinda want to compare it to object shows, but maybe it's because I just finished a video reviewing / discussing / analyzing a bunch of them, but like, it says how well they did writing the characters by having creatures that most wouldn't really associate with having much of a personality being convincingly portrayed with one. The thing that makes this show different compared to other shows is that it has very necessary sex scenes. Anyway, the animation. A lot of people who saw the trailer thought the animation was bad, because the trailer made it look bad, and there are shots that look bad. But anyone who's saying the whole entire show is just horribly animated, I feel like hasn't seen the entire show. They've probably just seen clips of the trailer, which is ridiculous. It's not even too long of a show. It's just one season with 10 episodes lasting 10-ish minutes, aka what Owen Dennis usually does. But anyway, some of the deaths here are really well animated and were like especially surprising to see how bloody they got for Among Us. Like the Among Us death animations in the game are brutal, but they're not really too much to be excited about. But the Among Us show having deaths like this throughout the whole season was kinda shocking, but really funny to see how hard they went. That's just pure aura. Obviously, the imposter scenes, like the chase scene from episode I Forgot the Number, was great, and again, they made dynamic scenes for the Among Us show. Now, writing-wise, the show also does pretty well. Are there better written stuff? Yes, infinitely yes, but you gotta remember, they actually got competent writers for the show. The character arcs and motivations make sense. The character dynamics with red and purple, yellow and brown, and my favorite duo, black and cyan, are so well done. Also, this joins Deltarune as some of the best uses of the word ass as a funny rated teen word, but also as a really emotional note between the characters, and also Elijah Wood saying dumbass to f***ing Petra from Minecraft Story Mode. Speaking of the emotional moments, while I've experienced stuff that's hit me harder and swept me off my feet, I still felt the floor a bit shudder. And by that I mean, it was pretty good. Like the whole moment with Black reading Cyan's journal was great, and my favorite line of dialogue from the show was,
"But Black hated Cyan when they were alive."
Well, apparently they learned to work together in death.
Now that was great. Also, the foreshadowing for who's revealed to actually be the imposters are there enough to make rewatches, like I watched this with a group of friends and watched it with another group of friends, actually fun. Like you'll notice actions that make their imposter status really noticeable. Now regarding the dialogue and humor, it's pretty alright too. I'd say that and the whole show in general is pretty rough in the beginning, but it really gets its footing later on, and the funniest parts of the show aren't like the comedic dialogue. I should rephrase that. Most of those are also really funny. Owen Dennis and the writing crew still make a lot of really good jokes.
So yeah, I decided not to kiss any worms because I didn't know if kissing new worms would be adultery.
But including those, some of the funniest parts of the show are just how bizarre they managed to get. Like the situations and plot points they get into. I think that's most evident in my favorite episode of the show, episode 5, where they catch the imposter, they explode in space, then the characters get high, take off all their clothes, and get into an orgy.
Allow me.
This is real, and it's the funniest episode, and for some fucking reason, this happens.
We should get undressed again.
They used the Among Us VR clip from the Among Us show in the promotional material. Speaking of promotional material, the show had none. It was shadow dropped on a random Friday like it was Lemonade by Beyonce or Blonde by Frank Ocean. I hope that whoever's in charge of the show, if they decide to make future seasons, like with a new cast on a different map with more thematic world building, I hope they understand that the reason this show got as big as it did with a loyal fandom that I'm already seeing being formed with lots of fan art, that it wasn't because it was the funny Among Us show. It was because it was actually well written with a competent crew. People were convinced that Black and Cyan and Red and Purple and Lime and Blue were good ships because they were convincing, not just because they were funny blob slop. I didn't even find the show to be that amazing. I found it to be pretty good, but I can just see people finding this really great and being really impacted by it, and I would get it. Also, speaking of those themes, wow, is this show really progressive. I mean, I already said all the characters were pan and non-binary, but like, talking about capitalism, corporatism, different classes, and religion this calmly in a cartoon was really surprising in that they didn't really make a big deal out of it.
What are you, a cop?
No, but I'm friends with cops, landlords, influencers, politicians' children, people who greenlight live-action versions of animated movies, people who watch.
Like, I shouldn't have been surprised. This should be the norm. These things shouldn't be completely unmentionable and removed in animated stuff. I'd like if more animated shows, and shows in general, were able to talk and joke about it, like in Community, my favorite sitcom, where it was able to make jokes about stuff and talk in a satirical way while still being primarily progressive. There should just be more shows with Henry Stickmin references. Also, there's an Infinity Train reference here. Look at 1-1. Now, they also do a lot of other cool things, like the evolving intro as more characters die and get killed. It's really cleverly done and well animated, and just neat to see an animated show actually having an intro theme. I know this show isn't an indie show, it's a show based off an indie game, but like, think of modern animated shows that actually have recognizable intros and intro themes. Basically, all I'm saying is if you're doing an indie animated project, have an intro and an intro theme. Object shows are really good at doing these. Anyway, like the blaring intro theme for the Among Us show is just really funny to hear every start of the episode. And also, speaking of Among Us, like the game, I think they really do a good job of separating themselves from the game while still being kinda loyal to it. They have several scenes that had the group of people I was watching with go, that's just like the game, but those scenes never felt too overbearing, and like the show, while it's literally linked to the game, you don't have to play 100 hours of Among Us or even know anything about it to like the show. Like, Among Us in general is a simple, decent, fun, skillful game that's really enjoyable to play with friends, and I think the show captures the spirit of the game while also simultaneously, and what most people will find, surprisingly, having a rhythmically emotional story with consistently interesting plot beats. Like, no one expected the Among Us show to release in the Big 26, and less than no one expected it to be really good. I really didn't, because I didn't hear much about the show at all, but when my friend Frog told me that Owen Dennis was involved and I looked into the full crew, I was like, if I had known this beforehand, I would have been kinda excited, or at the very least, interested. In my opinion, it's not as good as Infinity Train, but that's cause it's like Infinity Train, one of the best and genuinely most underrated cartoon shows ever. Infinity Train was one of the reasons I started my channel years ago. But Among Us, like, as a cartoon show, it's both fun and funny for Owen Dennis, BDG, and the entirety of the writers and crew in general to flex their showmaking skills through the f***ing Among Us show and have it actually be great. This is like if the next Call of Duty story was written by Toby Fox, or if Counter-Strike 3 story mode was written by Ian Jones Quarty, or if the Barbie movie was directed by Greta Gerwig.